Is our country at this moment heading in a direction where it is discovering its true identity? An identity which had been subsumed under colonial rule and an artificial identity sought to be enforced over it? Or is our country actually headed in a very dangerous direction where priorities are far diverse from what they should be? Is this good? Is this bad? To talk about the dynamics of the Bharat-India debate that's at play, we've got two formidable thinkers here for the next session at the India Today Conclave. Allow me to introduce R. Jagannathan, editorial director at Swarajya; Pawan Verma, former diplomat, renowned author, great thinker. Thank you very much for joining us. I want to start by getting Pawan Verma to explain what is it that concerns you the most. One, the idea that the India under Nehru was an India which was very different from the true self of our nation, a far more cosmopolitan Western construct of what our country should be in the eyes of some. And the Prime Minister and the supporters of the BJP and the RSS would argue that Prime Minister Modi is helping our country discover its culture, its history, which is what everyone sitting here watching on TV should know rather than be running away from. That Nehru was running away from the real Bharat. Modi is helping people embrace the real Bharat.
Let me say, Rahul, that unlike the current attempt by some to denigrate Nehru, I believe that India or Bharat was extremely fortunate to have a man like him for 17 years at the helm of our country just after we became independent. Because he did have failings, but he, being a Democrat, he being inclusive, and he believing in parliamentary democracy, ensured that India was one of the few countries who came out of colonization and remained a democracy. Having said that, I think there is some merit in the fact that Pandit Nehru saw the future of India largely as a breakaway from what he considered to be a sterile past. By that I mean, as he writes in his own words, we have to get rid of the deadwood of the past, which he largely conflated with superstition, prejudice, and ritual. But as I have written in several of my books, including The Great Hindu Civilization, there was a great deal to be rediscovered of that civilization. And that process, as often happens in colonized countries, did not happen to the sufficient degree and are not even part of our educational curriculum. So, while his notion of an inclusive and democratic India was important, he saw the future largely in the paradigm of Western modernity and the exclusion of our remarkable civilizational past. That is true. The danger is, and I will elaborate on this future, that in recovering or reclaiming that past, we have to be aware of pitfalls while being open to making that discovery.
So before Jaggi responds, lay out what you see as the pitfalls and the dangers which you think the government of the day needs to be wary of as it seeks to reclaim the past.
See, Rahul, let's be clear about one thing. India was one of the most ancient civilization with a self-consciousness of it being a civilization. It's a young nation. And while that unity is the bedrock of who we are today, that unity survives on the survival of diversity. If you convert this civilizational unity through political means into a monolithic conformity imposed to strengthen an artificial unity, you are going to create problems in preserving that unity. And therefore I believe that the one danger is when you say only one language, when you say only one name for a country, when our multifaceted history or inheritance shows that both names are acceptable by now and have so been validated in the constitution. So when you try to impose that monolith, when you say that our interpretation of Hinduism is the only right one and anyone else's is not Hinduism, when you say that this is a country only of people of one faith, but is not a country which has survived over the millennia by being happily multicultural, multilingual, plural, and yet preserving its unity.